Hello and welcome back. Today I'm actually going to be doing some sewing. Ooh, I know, I've done so many maintenance videos just lately. Anyway, I've got these beautiful jacquard fabrics here with an oriental pattern. You see here, this is the blue peacock. And then I've got this one that's a purple dragon pattern. And I've had them for a while, been sat in my stash. I got them in a sale for something like daft, like £6.50 a metre, which for this fabric is absolutely amazing. And I've been thinking, what can I do with it? Now, I could make a beautiful gown or dress, and I'd never, ever, ever wear it. And for me, clothes are for wearing, you know? You're going to make something, wear it. So I've decided with these fabrics, I'm going to make some dungarees. Anyone who knows me knows I love my dungarees. They're nice and comfy. So I'm going to make the dungarees out of the purple jacquard, which on the camera looks a bit pinky, but it is quite a rich purple. And then with this royal blue, I'm going to make a little shawl coat that will go with it. So what I'm using for the pattern for this project is actually a pair of dungarees that I bought that I absolutely love the fit of. They're so comfortable, but the quality of the fabric is so poor that it just tears and falls to pieces really easily. So what I did is I unstitched all the seams, and then I've used this pattern before, and then I lay this pattern out onto the fabric, give a margin for your seams, your seam allowance, and then I just cut round it. I will be adding extra into the leg area. Let me just pull it up so you can see, because, you know, as well as being a comfy fit, they are about 2 inches too short in the legs for me. I've got long legs. So I'll be adding an extra couple of inches onto the bottom to allow for hemming and everything else, and to give me that length in the leg. So yeah, let's get this pattern pinned onto this fabric. So now I've got the dungaree pattern pinned and roughly cut. I'm going to cut it out properly again in a minute. I'm going to do the same with the blue fabric and the jacket pattern. Now the only difference is the jacket pattern is a paper pattern that I have adjusted to how I want it to fit. So I've added some extra length into the bodice and into the sleeves. Now, if you notice here, I've come across a bit of a problem, and it's the fact that this fabric isn't wide enough to fit the full cuff on, because I have to pin this along the sleeve. It's one piece, and this is for the back. So what I'm going to do, when I cut this fabric, I will cut it so the sleeve runs down here, but then when I come to sew it, I will make an extension for the sleeve, probably out of the purple fabric, so it's got a little extra cuff on the bottom that will look really nice, and it won't be obvious that the fabric is too short. Now I've got all the pattern pinned onto the fabric, I'm going to take my time, cut it all out carefully, and then we'll be ready to start looking at how we sew these pieces together. So now I've got all the pieces cut how I want them. It's time to start clipping together for the first lot of stitching that needs to be done. very silly mistake there. Can you see what I've done? I can. So you should always double check when you're working. I've clipped this together, but if I'd actually stitched it and then turned it, can you see? It doesn't quite match up, does it? This should be blue to blue. So let me try again. Numpty. What a moment. So now I've got everything clipped together, it's time to start stitching. So what I'm doing right now is I'm having a look which thread would be best to stitch this fabric with. I'm going to go with this darker blue thread because obviously it matches the actual colour of the fabric a bit more. Obviously it's not the same, but when I do the hemming around the neck area and on the edges of the sleeves and things, this isn't going to show up as much as what this light blue thread would. You see, I'm taking my time with this, and the reason for that is this fabric is very, very shiny. And as a result, is very, very slippy. And sometimes slippy fabrics can be a bit of a nuisance to sew. I'm just taking my time, letting the machine feed the fabric. I'm not pushing or pulling it. I'm just guiding it very gently through the machine. If I stitch too fast, this seam here will start to wrinkle. Just taking my time. There's no rush. It's not a race. So the next thing I'm going to do, this is something that is personal to me, you don't have to do this, but if you want to you can, is I'm going to pull this seam open and then I'm going to stitch along this edge of the seam so that I create a flat seam. Normally what I would do, that I forgot to do in this case, is leave a larger seam allowance so I can actually fold the seam underneath, but as you can see there's just not enough spare fabric for me to do that easily. I mean, I can just about do it, but it's a bit awkward. But I prefer personally flat seams in my clothing. I find overlock seams quite itchy and annoying. Obviously, if you have got an overlocker, you know, and you're fine with overlock seams, perfect, great. Just whiz it through the overlocker to finish off these seams. So for those of you who might be wondering, that's what the finished seam looks like on the outside. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do all the edging to the jacket. So I'm going to roll all the hems in, get that clipped into place and get that stitched. Now there is a lot of hemming to do on this jacket. So the first hemming that I'm going to do will be along the front and around the neckline of this jacket. So I spent quite a bit of time yesterday hemming this, but I'm not happy with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get to know my friend Stitch Unpicker, Stitch Ripper, and then what I'm doing is I'm cutting a bias out of the spare purple material I've got. These pieces here for the cuffs, and then I will actually be putting a bias around the edges of this just to give it a bit more pop. You know, it looks very bland at the moment. So yeah, so that's the next task. Get to know Stitch Ripper and make bias binding. So like I did with the blue fabric, I've done a colour match with the thread to the purple fabric, so it's not going to show up so much once it's all put together. So now I'm going to start making the bias stripping for this jacket. I just do a straight edge stitch on my bias. I know there's a lot of people out there who do it in many different ways. I can do a tutorial on all the different ways in which you can sew bias. Personally, I find this works for me, so I just roll with it, you know. So now I've got all the old hem unstitched. It's time to stitch on the new bias that I'll be adding onto this coat. So now I've got the pieces for the jacket sorted, I'm going to make a start on the dungarees. Any of you that's watched this video so far will know how excited I am for this project that I'm working on, but disaster struck last night. My autistic little boy managed to get hold of a stitch ripper, and he was probably in here for a minute, 2 minutes, if that, last night, and now I have 5 nice cuts in these dungarees, so I'm going to have to come up with an interesting way to patch these and see how I can fix them up so they still look good and I can still wear them, because I don't want to throw it all away. I can't get any more of this fabric. It's end stock fabric, so It's really, really hard to find, and if you do find it, it's really expensive. So yeah, let's see what we can do. So the first thing I've done in order to be able to darn these pieces is on the back I've pinned another piece of fabric that'll act as a support. You can use Bonder web and other stabilizers on the back. I've just used a little piece of scrap fabric that I've got from this project, and then I'm going to match the thread. Now I'm going to use this embroidery thread that I've got. It's a really good match, this purple. It's very slightly different, but it'll be okay. So obviously I'm going to wind a bobbin with this and get the threads all set up. And the other thing I'm going to do, as I've stated before, let me zoom you in a little bit so you can see a bit better. But these threads, or this fabric should I say, it frays really easily. So I'm going to be trimming all these little frayed bits off so that when I it's an applique stitch that I use. When I stitch over this, it won't fray and it won't have bits of spare thread sticking up. So now I've stitched up the damage best I can. I'm now going to take this blue piece of spare fabric and I'm going to make a pocket to go on the front, which should hide most of those repairs. So there we go, that's the front now fixed up. It doesn't look too bad, I suppose. That one's still a bit obvious, and this patch here, but all the others are hidden behind the pocket. So all I need to do now is I've got to finish the hemming off around the arms and across the back, and then fit the straps. Are you ready for the big reveal? Ta-da! Really pleased with how this has come out. I love the colours. I love the feel of the fabric. It's really nice, silky smooth. Lovely fabric to touch. I've got some nice big pockets. I love a good pocket me. I think most women do. I don't know why they never have decent pockets on women's clothing, but I digress. But yeah, this is the finished look. Little jacket with its purple trim. You take that off so you can see this is the back of the dungarees. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that video. Thanks for watching, and I will see you again soon. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon.